Hello everyone and welcome to In the Trenches, Kroll's weekly cyber threat intelligence briefing. Today is the 22nd of April and my name is George Glass, an Associate Managing Director in the Threat Intelligence team. Joining me today from the team is Ryan Hicks and Dave Truman. As always, we'll be covering the most recent trends our team is concentrating on. And this week we have a situation report. Palo Alto confirms brute force campaign against PAN-OS devices worldwide. This is following Kroll's reporting in a previous bulletin highlighting a report from GreyNoise indicating a large uptick in activity targeting Palo Alto PAN-OS devices. It's been confirmed that Palo Alto has detected the ongoing campaign to brute force login credentials to those devices. They stated, "Our team are observing evidence of activity consistent with password-related attacks, such as brute force login attempts, which does not indicate exploitation of a vulnerability." They also state that they're continuing to monitor the situation and analyze the reported activity to determine its potential impact and identify if mitigations are necessary. Now, we have often monitored Palo Alto devices for initial access. If this brute force credential attack is the case, we do think that this could be used as a very good initial access methodology. We have a lot of default cases where this often is the case, where Palo Alto credentials are breached either by brute force or by purchasing access to those credentials. It's imperative to enforce multi-factor authentication on those devices. Next up, a little bit of drama last week, I suppose. The CVE numbering process was almost disrupted due to a halt in MITRE funding. This got a lot of attention across multiple news outlets. The US government funding for MITRE's Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures program, that's the CVE program, was set to expire on April the 16th after the Department of Homeland Security did not renew MITRE's contract. MITRE warned in a letter that this lapse could disrupt the entire vulnerability management ecosystem, degrading vulnerability databases, security tools, and so on. Thankfully, though, CISA intervened at the last minute by executing an option to extend MITRE's funding, which prevented a pretty large lapse in CVE services. That would essentially mean that vulnerabilities would no longer be able to get a sort of agreed upon CVE name or number, I should say. In response to this, also a new not-for-profit organization called the CVE Foundation, that's the link on the screen there, was formed to facilitate the continuation of the CVE numbering program and continues to work towards, quote, eliminating a single point of failure in the vulnerability management ecosystem. So yeah, we're tracking this development. It looks like the crisis is kind of averted. We haven't experienced any degradation in any of those facilities so far. Remember, if you've got any questions or comments, please do get in touch with us using cti@kroll.com. That's cti@kroll.com. So let's get into the rest of today's briefing. Today, Ryan is going to be talking about a new Lazarus campaign, and Dave has a malware spotlight for us on RESOLVERRAT. So I'll pass it over to Ryan. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, George. Hi, everyone. So Unit 42 has reported on an update to activity attributed to KTA 071, also known as Lazarus, displaying their persistent targeting of the financial sector, largely cryptocurrency organizations. There's also a continuation of the commonly used initial access method by the group through the impersonation of recruiters on LinkedIn. So the group sent PDF laws to applicants via LinkedIn, which in itself was not malicious document itself. However, it contained, or it did contain, a variety of job details, questions, as you would expect from kind of those sort of documents pertaining to a fake job. However, part of the document was a coding challenge, which asked the applicants to solve a problem whereby the project was hosted on GitHub, and that segment of the PDF is shown on the right-hand side there. And there were a range of repositories observed that were typically Python, Java, or JavaScript focused. And Unit 42, during the reporting, noted that the coding language as well as the theme of the project was appeared to be tailored to the individual applying, highlighting how kind of targeted and kind of personal that this campaign was, rather than just a sort of widespread social engineering. The majority of the code present in the challenges appeared to be benign, likely copied from legitimate code that was fetching data from legitimate websites that was pertaining to the theme around the challenge, so kind of presenting information to the applicant as they expected. There was, however, additional connections to an actor-controlled domain that fetches a Python script, and that kicked off a series of malicious files, including rnloader, which is another Python script, and that in turn downloaded and executed rnstealer, which is the main kind of malicious payload observed. And the purpose of that is largely similar to other information stealers, as you see on in the list there, gathering kind of basic victim information, file directory listings, as well as looking for stored keys in SSH, AWS, Kubernetes, and Google Cloud. And from here, the actor will likely just really assess the stolen information and whether more activity, such as kind of persistence and further, is needed on that particular victim. And that can then be used for pivoting across to more important corporate assets within that kind of environment if they deem necessary. So we'll continue to track activity attributed to this group and just sort of keep on building out and provide any updates as necessary. Back to you, George.
Thank you very much, Ryan. And now over to Dave for a spotlight on RESOLVERRAT. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. RESOLVERRAT is a new malware seen targeting healthcare and pharmaceutical companies. First documented by Morphisec, the malware is a .NET-based remote access Trojan. The malware was observed being distributed via phishing emails with themes around the evidence of organizations' violations or infringements. Once the victim clicks the link, they are directed to download and open a file which triggers the infection chain. RESOLVERRAT is executed via DLL sideloading. In the campaign observed, the binary used was hpreader.exe. Once the malware DLL is loaded, it decrypts an embedded AES-256 encrypted binary object, which it loads into a .NET assembly, which it then invokes. The malware makes use of anti-analysis techniques, such as behaving differently if a debugger is identified and control flow flattening. The malware registers itself as a custom handler for .NET resource resolve events, allowing it to supply malicious assemblies instead of the legitimate resources requested in a form of process injection. RESOLVERRAT maintains its persistence both via registry run keys and by copying itself to startup file system locations such as the user's startup folder. For command and control, RESOLVERRAT uses SSL. However, instead of relying on the operating system to validate the server certificate, the malware matches it against an embedded certificate. This means that intercepting SSL proxies would not be able to read the traffic. However, it also means that on a strict SSL intercepting proxy, it is likely that the malware would have difficulty communicating with the C2 server, since the proxy would supply its own generated certificate. Overall, this is an interesting piece of malware written to be hard for automated tools to detect and features redundancy in its persistent mechanisms. However, EDR, perimeter email scanning, user education, and a reputation-based intercepting proxy might help in mitigating the threat. Thank you. George?
Thank you very much, Dave, and thank you very much to Ryan. That's all we have this week. If you have any questions or comments, please don't forget to reach out to us. That's cti@kroll.com. And yeah, have a very wonderful day. Thank you all.